Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name is Pinkava, joined as always by the lovely Deplorable Knitter.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
And this episode is sponsored by Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. You can find her at chickenladyfiberarts.com, and the promo code for us is PIK Deplorables20 for 20% off your order.
Yes, and has been down and out with COVID for a few weeks. So if you need something quick, make sure you choose ready to ship. Otherwise, she'll be back to her regular schedule, hopefully pretty soon.
Right. And you can use her promo code multiple times too. So if you've bought from her already and used it, you can use it again.
Yes.
To start out our knitting podcast, what have you been knitting this week?
Well, this week, I haven't knit a whole bunch since last weekend because I was killing myself to get my shawl done. I wore my shawl to my stepbrother's wedding. I wore it with a black dress, and I have a shawl pin that my husband bought me. Here, I will show you the shawl pin. It's a little wooden butterfly. It's very cute. But he bought it for me for our 5th anniversary, and I've never worn it, and we're going on 9 years. So, oops, my bad. So I finally got to wear it, and I got to wear the shawl, and I loved it, and I got lots of compliments, but all of the long days and long nights knitting on it really, I haven't been as productive this week because I had to catch up on all the sleep I missed while I was staying up too late and getting up too early to do it. So,
right.
But it turned out great, and I love this. These flowers, they kind of almost make it pleat or something, so that it kind of has its own drape. So I love it. Love everything about it. I'm not a shawl person, but there's a possibility I could make another one, maybe gray, something a little bit more, a little more neutral that can go with everything. So yeah, so that's my shawl, and that's what I've made. How about you? What have you been working on?
Super pretty. I've had kind of an interesting week knitting. So before I get into what I have been knitting, so there I am. Had some time to kill. I was out in town with my brother, so we went to Joann's, and I'm like, okay, I want to see what they have for yarn. And so he's kind of trailing along after me. I'm looking at their yarns. Selection is mostly acrylic. And I'm like, okay, so there's this, there's that. And he's following me, and there's like a display of pom-poms, and he's like, oh, look, tribbles. And he's, as bored men are, do in craft shop, he's like, look at all these tribbles. And he's playing with them. And he's like, those hats that, like white girls wear, but they're like multiple colors, and there's like a pattern on them, and then there's like a pom-pom on top. And I'm just like, you mean Fair Isle knitting? And he's like, yeah, I think those are really cool, but I probably couldn't wear that. And I'm like,
what makes it a white girl thing? Out of everything you could pick.
I know that his specific term for it is white girl thing, and I'm like, that aside, you've known me for how long, Max? You have known me for how long? And he's just like, yeah, I just think it's kind of a fun look. And I'm like, so you're just going to casually say at this point, oh, by the way, I like stuff that is knitted that way, as if I could never have made it for you before. And he's like, yeah, like the sweaters, like the big, burly Viking guys wear. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, you mean exactly the type of knitting challenge that I like? You mean exactly that? You mean the stuff that I have like knitting books stacked, and like, oh wow, really, I've made some different stranded colorwork sweaters before, but I'm like, I love that stuff, but takes a lot of time, and unless somebody really wants one, he's like, oh yeah, I like them. Why have you never spoken of this before?
Yeah, no, my husband I spent a long time knitting him like a DK weight hat. And after that, I found out, oh, well, I really prefer the ones that are chunky. We could have had this conversation like 10 years ago. We've been together a long time. Like, come on.
Like you could have had so many chunky hats. So many.
Yeah. Me and my ADD, I love knitting chunky hats because they're quick and I can, even if they have cables or color work, or they go very fast and then you're done and you have a new project to work on. It kills me, I swear.
Well, and then with my brother and these sweaters here. So I have, okay. So I love, and I've never been able to make, I haven't had time or been able to or sat down to make one yet. My favorite sweaters are the Dale of Norway sweaters that they did for the Olympics.
Okay.
For the Winter Olympics, that they'll put one out, I think every year, but for different Olympic teams. And there was a knitting store and it changed locations and it had a huge sale. And there was a stack of these patterns highly discounted in a corner. And I just bought them up. I'm just like, this is the best day ever. And it's even, oddly enough, it's even better because somebody had clearly knit them before. So it was someone's post-it notes throughout and their notes on the pattern. Like, this is awesome that someone else, I mean, I can, go through and disagree with her notes, but if she's like, nah, then I can look at what she did, like, okay, I can, she's probably quite competent if she knits a lot of Dale of Norway sweaters, I'm just gonna say. But anyway, so I'm pulling these out and they're like, big old, there's that, there's this. Here,
I like that one. That's kind of like a half, like a pullover with a, placket or whatever you want to, what I'm talking about.
They're all very much that way. And wait, it's bigger one, it's slipping out, but yeah, it's and I'll flip the other side, but they're all big and intricate and absolutely gorgeous. And and again, I'm going through and I'm like, okay, what do you like about this sweater? What do you like about that sweater? I'm like trying to distill down what specifically he wants in a sweater. Closest one is Salt Lake 2002. So here, is it focusing? I don't know. Anyways, it is, oh, here. Big picture in color.
Wow, those are really, like, I love to do color work, but I don't know that I would enjoy that.
Well, and then you'd have to stake it definitely, which is another problem in itself. But yeah, the knitting pin up, you can just pin this to your wall. Like, what a hunk.
Yeah, forget the calendars with the firemen, and Anne's got one full of men wearing Fair Isle sweaters.
Yeah. It's like, ooh, this is some nice Norwegian stuff over here. But yeah, that, in case you want to know what I do with my spare time. But yeah, so looking through all these patterns, and I'm just like, please choose a sweater. I want to make this sweater. I think they're all wonderful. And I have more too. But yeah, but just going through and, sir, please let me knit you a sweater. Please let me do this. And this is my, biannual cry for help. If anyone has Nagano, the 1998 Olympic sweater pattern, please tell me, because that's the one I've been digging for. It has like cross dragons on it, and it's amazing.
That sounds really fun. Mm-hmm. Once again, like I said, it seems like I like knitting that I don't have to pay that much attention to. You'd have to pay a lot of attention to that. If it involves counting, I was counting the other day. My kids were watching something. I was sitting there with them. And whatever they were watching started counting. And I about like threw something at the TV because I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, for real? Right. So well, I'm still not at the stage of my life where I can sit and quietly count something.
Right. And I mean, with those sweaters too, that it's a lot of the pattern across the top. So like the body of it and most of the sleeves of it are pretty plain. So, you know, you could kind of judge when to work on it and when not to, I guess. But yeah.
But see, this is the thing you don't know about yet. Sometimes I'll get up and I'll get my coffee made and I'll turn on a show or something and I'll snuggle in and then everybody comes out. And I'm like, well, at least I got my coffee.
Right.
But so that's cool. So have you actually been knitting or just dreaming about knitting?
No, I've actually been knitting. No.
Cool.
Yeah. So at Joann's, because I'm a fool, I am an absolute fool. But they had all of this really chunky tweed yarn in the discount bin. And you know how I've been talking about Christmas stockings. And so I've had this plan for Christmas stockings for some friends of mine for a while. And then I went, no. And they're all like, oh, it would take too much time. And then it's chunky yarn. I'm like, so that would take like 5 minutes. What am I complaining about? So I picked out my colors and it's going to be, so yeah, I started. It's going to be this sort of creamy color for the heels, toes, and cuffs. And then I have this maroon and I have purple, and I have green for the stockings for the main color.
So is it going to be like Fair Isle or are they just like straight up stockings or what?
There's mostly straight up stockings, but with like letters. So like a Weasley sweater, but in a Christmas stocking way. So yeah, so I've been starting on this. I've only had, you know, and then I didn't do a pattern because I'm a fool. So I've only had to pull it out 3 times already. And I should say in the middle of this, that while complaining about Christmas stockings, that Wise Owl Knits, she just put out a collection of 5 different Christmas stockings. I think it's on Love Crafts and on her website, but yeah, that she has, you know, Fair Isle and a couple plaid ones and cables and stuff. So if you are interested in Christmas stockings, there's some patterns.
Yeah, I've been wanting to make them for my family, so maybe I'll check out her patterns. I mean, not like it's going to happen now, but at least if I find them. I think I bought a stocking a couple of years ago. I don't even remember where I got it from. Maybe Etsy.
Yeah.
Never followed through with it though. That's the problem. Although my knack for not following through actually helped my mom out this week. I think I mentioned it before, but my mom has a nerve disease, and so she goes and gets shots, nerve blocks in her spine several times a month or once a week, depending on what she needs. So one of the nurses at the surgery center is having a baby. And so she calls me on Tuesday when she gets home from her shot and she goes, hey, I need some yarn to make a baby blanket. And so I'm digging around. I pull out this yarn. Well, it's not just yarn. I pull out this half done baby blanket and I'm like, hey, it's neutral. It's the cream and yellow and gray. And she's like, perfect. And so now my mom has I haven't asked her about it today, but she's probably already done knitting it by now because it was already half done and she's way fast. So,
right.
So there you go. My one time where I didn't follow through, it actually worked out really well.
It's perfect for everyone.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, so like I said, I've been working on these, but okay, I never use bulky yarn. Never. And it's real. So
I love the yarn. I love it so much.
I know you do, but I'm sitting here and then I got size 11 needles and then it said that it really needed size 13. I'm like, oh, well, I got that, I guess. But I'm knitting away on it and it is like hurting my fingers. Like they're not used to working. So it's a large thing. So I'm
too funny.
Yeah, so me thinking that's going to be super fast, I'm like, my wrists need a break because this hurts like the dickens. So I'm like, okay, put this to the side. And then I go back because I'm still working on the Rockefeller shawl and I'm like, it's so tiny. Look at this. It's just delicate.
So after finishing that shawl, I went on to knit something with size 8 needles and I felt like I was using like giant sticks to knit because And that was done on 5, so it's not like it was tiny, but it was
Right.
the difference between the worsted weight yarn and the size 8s compared to the fingering weight and the small needles. I was like, oh my God, I'm like the fastest knitter on earth.
Oh, I think I'm trying to remember if these are 3s or if these are 5s, but yeah, that is just like, oh, look, this is so delicate. But also like, oh, look, I can knit so many stitches in a row without having to move anything. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's
Or I'm
funny.
like knitting 5 and like pushing and like my fingers have to relearn how to adjust themselves and they're not doing well.
You'll get the hang of it once you get through several.
Yeah.
How many do you have to make?
6. And like I said, I'm a fool.
I keep dropping my fidget spinner.
Oh, see.
Want to see it?
Sure.
It's not really a fidget spinner. This is one of my handmade drop spindles for my class. I'm teaching them how to spin tomorrow. So this is a bamboo chopstick, and I bought these little hooks, and this is a wooden tire wheel.
Okay.
And it has this cool Gorilla Glue that once you get it wet, it expands. You can see it right there.
Oh, nice.
And so the chopstick was a little bit smaller than the hole, but once I put that on and it expanded, it totally worked out. And so I learned how to spin yesterday.
Oh, nice.
And so I will practice again today so that tomorrow when I go to class, I'm not completely incompetent, but my mom is coming. She knows how to spin with a drop spindle and she's bringing her wheel to demonstrate. So it's going to be fun.
Oh, good.
I made 7.
Okay.
7 of them.
Those look really good too, because I've seen some beginner drop spindles where they will make them out of like CDs or something.
Mm-hmm.
And like that stupid profesh. Those are nice.
Well, my mom was looking at them going, if you like she was looking at them and she was saying, like the wheel isn't quite straight on it and stuff, but it's so close that it's like, she's like, so if you like squared some stuff off, you could probably do this for real. And I'm like, I don't want to make spindles for a living, but neat idea in case I need to, it's an idea. Why not?
Well, I've seen at different fairs before a spindle kind of similar to that, and that's made out of a chopstick and you have the hook on top, but they had like rose quartz discs.
Oh, that's cool.
Top. I'm like, oh, fancy. So yeah, I mean it's a similar concept. I mean, you really could sell those if you were feeling it.
Well, maybe I will, but this is not the first thing I started with. I watched a tutorial about how to make them with polymer clay. So I got some polymer clay, I rolled it, I baked it. Yeah, but the polymer clay just didn't work out. It just crumbled. I don't know if it was the clay I had or if I didn't bake it properly but this thing that was going to be so super easy was horrible. And they were like, oh, and if you use a chopstick and polymer clay, you put the chopstick through when it's still a little bit warm and then it'll conform around it and it'll stick. No, that didn't work. Buy the tire wheels. I've tried it. It works better. And for 8 truck tires, it was, $5 or something. It wasn't anything crazy. So yeah, learned how to spin this week. So I don't know if I mentioned on here, but we used to sell in a consignment shop, and this happy little hippo lived in the consignment shop for about a year. Unfortunately, she has to go out of business just with COVID and everything. So this hippo lived there. He was waiting to find a home. I go to pick up the stuff, and she just very casually mentions to me, oh, by the way, somebody spilled coffee on your hippo. I don't know if you can see it, but all over his tummy are coffee stains. And she was just like, oh, well, maybe you can get some club soda to get it out. And I was angry, like really angry. And I had to sign for receiving my stuff. So before I did that, and this was after I walked in without a mask on and she made me put one on. So I was already a little bit ticked. Like, I won't lie. I was already feeling irritated. And then the way she was just like, oh, yeah, so somebody spilled some coffee on him. And so I had to sign for receiving the stuff. So I had to leave the store and I called someone and I'm like, she wrecked our thing. Should I sign for receiving it or what? And they were like, you know what? She's going out of business. She's having a rough time. But so we have a white coffee stained hippo that is very sad.
Oh,
it's terrible. But it was really upsetting because, I mean, I did not make this. My mom made it, but you can tell how fabulous he is.
Right.
Look at his face. Like, can you believe nobody wanted him? Mm-hmm. Although I think with COVID, not many people were going into her shop, honestly. But like, look at that face. Yeah. So my poor hippo got coffee. Totally mad.
And maybe, you know, my mind just blanked on, you know, hippos. But you know how some bears and stuff that they have like a circle that they'll put over the stomach and paws? Maybe you can do something for the hippo that way. I don't know if that works with hippos.
I don't know. It might. I'll have to think about it.
I've never contemplated a stuffed hippo before.
But look it, you should contemplate a stuffed hippo.
I should, because he's adorable.
Why wouldn't you want one?
Exactly. Everyone wants a stuffed hippo.
Okay, so that's my story about the hippo. And I don't want to, like, I was annoyed with her, but really it was a good deal for us because we had little stuffed animals in there. Mm-hmm. And like once a month we would get a check for $12-$20. You know, we weren't doing anything to earn it except we had made our stuff and put it in the store. So it was like, it was a good deal, but really upset about the hippo.
Yeah. Also, where was it sitting so that someone can spill coffee on it?
Well, he used to be on a shelf, and I think as artists were coming to get their stuff out, she was rearranging things so it didn't look sad, and she had him on the counter.
Okay.
White hippos should not live on the counter.
No.
I mean, for real. That's not where they go. But so we went live 2 weeks in a row, partially because life was busy, but partially because I couldn't find the cord to my computer. And I have found it in case anybody was curious. But while I was looking for the cord, I remembered that I have 4 shirts left over from the Deplorable Knitter shirt sale I had. Mm-hmm. And so these are going to go. There's one that's United We Knit. And then the rest of them are Knit for Your Dye. Yeah. So these are going to go into my Galilee Life store. They're available for purchase. And once these are gone, they are gone. I am not doing another pre-order. It was too hectic for me, maybe another year, but not. People were asking if I was going to do it around the holidays, and it's not going to happen. So if you missed out, there will be 4 in my Galilee Life store, and when they're gone, they're gone. Okay? So just so y'all know. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that I just got this book, which you can see my light on. It's called Irreversible Damage. The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. And I wanted to read it because I wanted to see what exactly people are saying, because even though this is about daughters, it's not just about daughters. There's so many people who are seduced by it, and I want to see if it sheds any light on why it's such an issue all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. You know, I posted the book on Instagram and people are like, oh, there have been transgenders as long as there's been life. And that may be true, but why now are there so many? And what, you know, I want to know more. So I got that. It's
and that's the book that Target wouldn't sell for a while, and then they brought it back, right?
I think so. Somebody on Instagram thought that it was Amazon that wouldn't sell it, but I've heard several places that it was banned, and it appears to be back now. So I don't know why that is.
Enough pushback.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I'll update you guys on that once I get it read, hopefully by the time we record next week. And there was something else, but I don't know what it was. So what about you? Is that all of the knitting? You didn't actually properly show us your shawl.
Oh, no, My shawl is much the same as it has been
Oh,
last
you've
week,
been working on other stuff, huh?
right? That I've been, so it is here. Whoa.
Oh.
Just bigger. Just there's more of a wing. I think, I don't know. I was probably 6 inches down or something last time I showed it. So here.
Nice.
It is pretty.
How is that the stripes section done? Is that fair isle or stranded, or is it done in like where your needles are? Are you going back and forth and just making stripes?
This, yeah, I'm just going back and forth making stripes this way.
Oh, cool. I wasn't sure if you were going along the whole bottom of it or if it was going sideways.
Nope, that you start. Okay, you start by making this just this section here that you go and you make these little wedges, and then you pick up on the bottom of that and you knit down and it fans out, and then after doing I-cord bind off, which I've just learned and it's kind of finicky, then you start from the sides again. Go out.
An I-cord bind off is really pretty. It's just kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, and then the sides fan, so that's cool.
And the side, yeah. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I just trying to think. Oh, that it's Rowan felted tweed, because I love that. And I just added my 3rd ball of green, and I think I have 2 of gold so far. So, I mean, it's one of those things too that originally it's for fingering weight, and this is DK, and I'm like, what's the yardage supposed to be? Nah. I have a lot of this. I'm just gonna go with it. Just gonna go. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I do that a lot, and I do you gauge swatch for things like that?
This
Or
in
not?
particular, no.
But like when you're making a shawl or something, like you generally know about how big your knitting is on certain needles, right? So do you I know that there's some people who gauge swatch constantly, and I've done it like twice in my whole life. So I was just curious.
Not for like a shawl. I'm normally like, it'll be what size it is. It's a shawl. For a sweater, I will, but my math is not great. So it's like, oh yeah, I did the math. And I'm just like, my math is terrible. Who let me do math?
That's like me and my patterns. I can't tell you how many times, and it's gone through my tech editor and my mom and my testers. And then somebody will be like, hey, did you know that there's like an extra stitch, or there was one. Oh, my Trump cowl that got me kicked off of Ravelry, that one had like 4 extra stitches in it, and like so many people were making it and nobody ever told me. It was crazy.
Nobody's like, it needs just a little adjustment.
I think a lot of knitters are like me, which is why it's you look at a pattern and know what you meant, even if it doesn't necessarily say that. So like if the stitch count is off, she's actually the one that found it on this one, but if the stitch count is off, you sometimes just mentally correct it, like you just work it out or knit a couple together, or you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, I do that a lot of the time too. But yeah, I mean, I've thought of doing different sweater patterns, and like I made that one Taiwan sweater. I'm like, oh, that'd be really cool to do, to publish a Taiwan sweater pattern. I'm just sitting like, oh, the math. Oh, figuring out different sizes, and a sweater is much different from a hat than a scarf, from even gloves.
But Anne, if you want to actually make a sweater, there are articles out there about how to like format a Excel sheet or a document that will do the math for you. You put in your so like the next size up is gonna have ×4 or whatever, and it does it for you. So it might not be as bad as you think.
You just told me to make an Excel spreadsheet, which is probably 3 times harder than figuring out the sweater itself. So for me anyways.
That's too funny.
No, it's like painstakingly do math you don't like, all right, it's like do an Excel spreadsheet. I'm out. Nope.
Well, my point is that there are ways to do it. And perhaps if you don't want to make your own spreadsheet, somebody offers them for a fee. I'm just saying.
That's true. That there are tech editors and other things.
Mhm.
I know.
Even pay somebody to grade your patterns if that's something you want to do.
That's true.
So I think that the whole I don't like math is a flimsy excuse.
That I should get over myself and make the dang sweater pattern. Well, fine.
What? I don't like math either. And here I am teaching people math every day. Sometimes life happens like that. So whatever.
Math is important. We all need quantifiable measurements for the world around us in order to succeed and make, repeatable stuff. But I'm just saying, math is hard. So, do you
remember that Barbie that came out in the 90s? Yeah.
One that everyone made fun of because it was like, oh, girls are stupid because you hit a button, the Barbie said, math is hard. And I'm like, yes, Barbie. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. I don't think I had that Barbie, but maybe I did. I remember we used to say it all the time.
Mm-hmm. We used to say it too, and we didn't have the Barbie either. I wonder if you can still get them. Must be like a prize, like collectible. The math is hard Barbie.
Funnily enough, when I'm trying to size a pattern and my math is wrong, that's what my mother tells me, that math is hard.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, we've talked a lot of actual knitting stuff and crafting stuff this week. Oh. Let's get to the horrible, awful nonsense that is the world.
Oh, and this is kind of a weird thing for me that, that we've melded knitting and politics, and that if I'm in another group where it's only politics, I'm like, where's the knitting though?
Yeah, to break this up, like,
yeah, it's like, oh gosh, lighten up back there. Can we just like talk about like nice family things for a bit, which totally negates the point of having serious political discussions. But I'm like, I feel like everything is kind of like in the high nebulous area of talking, and none of it's in the down to earth area of talking, and that's where knitting is, and you need that.
Yep, I totally agree. Oh no, I knocked something down. Oh. I'm trying to get my hippo back up on his book so you could see him over here.
Not that all political discussions should be knitting, but it's like you should have some other interests outside of politics. I'm just saying that there should be something else. That if you're just politics all the time, it makes for being a bit dull.
I know I've mentioned it a lot before, but I can't have a steady diet of politics. I really can't. It messes with my anxiety and my depression, and I have enough medicine for that. I don't want to have to get more. Like sometimes I just need to not be involved. So often, actually, we were talking about my business today, and I haven't released a pattern in several months, and I need to get back on it. But it's kind of like everything with the news cycle and everything. It's just so overwhelming sometimes that I just don't do it. I'm one of those people. I get like depressed and anxious. And so instead of doing everything like some people do, I do none of it. And so that works out really well for me.
Right. Well, and that was kind of my thing with the Norwegian sweaters, that it was, that I'm often thinking of knitting something, again, stuff like the Hong Kong scarf and stuff like that. Or, I'm knitting the shawl, but I really need to get back to hats for sailors before the deadline, which is November 12th. Yeah, that you have to get it in by that.
You have to mail by the 12th. Postmarked by the 12th.
Right. Yeah. And I think we mentioned last time that they had a picture that they've got over 2,000 hats already, which is awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, that I'm like, oh, I should. But so I'm sitting there and I'm looking around on Lovecrafts for different patterns for these Norwegian sweaters. And then I see something else. I'm like, oh, that would be cute in a hat, or cute, masculine, mostly for the Navy, And, again, as my brother has the bombshell of, by the way, I like Norwegian patterns, like, well, but yeah, so trying to incorporate some of that in a hat and actually get those in quick, but it's just this sudden, like, you know, I like knitting for knitting's sake. I like traditional patterns. I like wearing it, that it doesn't have to always be, you know, such that I don't need to be overly concerned about what I'm knitting, sort of a thing. And I think Skeins, Mari, who's in New Zealand, that she had an episode of her podcast where she was talking about joy knitting. That is just, you're just knitting because you like it. I'm like, oh, good. Because it is getting kind of tense that way.
And I think that that's something that I have been doing. I never would have, in the height of my pattern designing, I never would have worked on a shawl because I would have felt guilty for not designing. But we're going to go into next year with a better game plan. We're going to go in and like try to map out what we want to release so that we can have test knitters knit it. And because I'm bad to my test knitters. Anybody who's ever tested it for me, you guys are awesome and I appreciate it, because I'm usually like, hey, you got 2 weeks. If I ever want to put out a shawl pattern, I can't give people 2 weeks. So I need to like start planning ahead so that I have time for joy knitting, and I have time so that testers don't hate me for making them. You know what I mean? Like, hey, who can knit a hat in 36 hours? Because I need you.
But yeah, and you know, like I mentioned, you know, just even tossing around the idea of the, you know, Taiwan sweater pattern. I'm like, am I too niche again? Because I get that way. I'm not sure how, like, a lot of people really want to knit a full sweater with Taiwan on the back. Like,
yeah, I mean, it could be pretty niche, but then again, there are people who really like to knit sweaters. There's some fellow on Instagram who like once a week has a new sweater up, or sometimes more, and I have no idea how she does it.
Right.
I could not. So, you know, you might have an audience. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and that was one of the few other things I did do in bulky weight too. So, you know, there's a fairly quick knit for all of that, but still, anyways. But all that to say, politics. Well, in international news this week, Maggie Thorpe, in the House in England, she was in Parliament, and she did this bizarre Kamala Harris laugh, that instead of doing a formal vote about if they're going to extend their COVID measures, it was generally, oh yeah, are we going to vote for this, yay or nay? And the or it was worded so that yay was that we're not going to do a proper vote on it, and they just drowned out the nays, and she giggled like, haha, we don't need a vote, and then moved on. And I'm like, oh yay, that's some democratic process there. And again, the bizarro giggle, like as echoed by herself. And in America, you have Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton. And
so, okay, so they made it so that nobody could vote and they just moved on.
That it wasn't a formal vote. It was we don't need to vote on this, right? You know, yay, nay, out. And yeah, it's creepy. Along with you know, Boris Johnson is now proposing all sorts of bizarro green policies, that there should be no more oil sold in Britain. They're having a real problem. You know how America is having the shipping container crisis right now, that we can't get stuff into ports because people aren't, you know, the ports are all blocked up, and we stopped training truck drivers. So that's process is all blocked up. Well, that is blocked up in America, but it's also blocked up in England. So they're having a gas shortage because they don't have people to drive the trucks.
Okay, so is it in California, is it because they don't have people trained as truck drivers? Because I read that the problem is that they have like a Green New Deal thing that was quietly passed a while ago, and that any truck that's over 3 years old cannot do it because of emission standards. And the problem is that there's just straight up not enough trucks that are new enough to do it.
That could also be the case. I mean, I defer to you on that one, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Well, it's because I haven't been totally following it, but I do know that I was reading something that said that it was like a Green New Deal. They kind of passed this thing a couple of years ago. Nobody really paid any attention to it, and now here it is. And
Well, that's with so many of, these things that are supposedly green and wonderful, and it's like it's straight up wasteful too, that you need to scrap your vehicles almost instantly for whoever new comes along, and then you're like, oh no, there's no chips for them. Bummer.
yeah, well, so my husband and I like to watch Adam Ruins Everything, and the show is actually pretty liberal, but it talks about like your perception of things and how it really goes. And Adam was talking about how getting an electric car is not the best way to go unless you have exhausted your options of old cars that have already been manufactured. Because if it's like all the people who go healthy in their kitchen, and instead of using their Tupperware, they buy all new glass containers, but the Tupperware was working fine and you already owned it. So there's this disconnect between, being green and what's really green. And so that's
right. It's the old the little old lady thing, mend it, use it up, wear it out, use it to the last bit. And speaking of that, I know a distraction point. I believe this is real, and if not, get me later, but it was a Facebook fact check on this meme that's been going around for a while. But it's a black and white picture of grandma in the garden, and it said, y'all are about to realize why grandma washed the tinfoil and saved the bacon grease. And it was like, fact check, there's no proof that anyone did this. I'm like, that is straight up erasure of history. I was there. And also, I kind of am that person already. So don't say.
Yeah, I'm not that crazy with my tinfoil, but I remember I saw the same thing and people were commenting on it like, my mom and my grandma did that. What are you talking about? Yeah. It's not fake. So
yeah, next thing you're gonna tell me is that grandpa didn't eat cold slices of Spam. Like, stop lying to me, Facebook. I know this is real.
I know. But so what I've heard about the port issue though, also, and this is not that was told to me, it's not something I heard directly, so I could have some facts wrong, but I think it was Marco Rubio was talking about how they are going to be opening ports in like Florida and the South, because there are a lot of areas there where people need jobs and they are willing to take these shipments. So right. I don't know if that's going to help anything or what. I mean, California, Florida, that's pretty far. I don't know if that's going to change things. I mean,
right. I mean, that's
stuff, but
I don't know how it's going to work. I mean, didn't we just have an issue with the Panama Canal?
I don't know.
It's
stuck in it.
Yeah, I think something was stuck.
I love how you and I are like, well, maybe. I think it might have happened.
No, I'm pretty sure it was the Panama Canal where we had such an issue. So again, so that backs up the shipping there, but hopefully it will get through and
yeah. I don't know. But I think that this whole, it's a manufactured crisis. They want us to be they want it to be hard for us. They want us to be beholden to them. So if you have the means and the capability, go grocery shopping, go to BJ's or whatever, Costco, whatever you guys have, get your stuff, get ready, because,
And I've heard this so often, but even if you go into some sort of venue, like, oh, we're short staffed because of COVID, I'm like, hang on. That's crap, because it's not, oh, because of COVID. Yes, that COVID does play a factor in this, but you're taking the over factor and you're making it all nice. It's because a pandemic is on, and not the, oh, by the way, the policy decisions from people's sense and from different things and businesses and people not wanting to work because they've been on welfare and all of this. That is the problem. You're just saying COVID. Like, right. Don't be playing these games.
It's like anything else. It's a lot harder to argue with COVID than it is to say, like, it's the Democrat talking points and the Republican talking points. Democrats say COVID. We say, well, yeah, there's a labor shortage, but there's also welfare and this and that, and it's nuanced. It's not just a blanket. This is why.
Right.
Anyway.
No, it totally is, and it's incredibly frustrating that it's like, oh well, this is just because of the pandemic, and it's the legitimate article where it's like people forget about the wonderful community about bread lines and the that, oh well, we have to readjust our expectations. How spoiled are you wanting to get things for a reasonable price on time when they said they'd be delivered? I mean, that's just a you problem. You should Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee, he said, in order to build back better, you have to settle for less. It's like, this is so much better now. Why? Because I'm saying it's better. It's like, I remember a time when it actually was better. No.
Right. No, you're just confused. But in the next 90 days too, Procter & Gamble is going to be raising their prices. I know a lot of conservative Christians try not to buy many of their products because they have some really questionable things they're into. But I just realized that my shampoo was made by them. I never noticed. I was looking in the shower because my husband had told me, and then I went and washed my hair. So, plan ahead, because everything's going to be more expensive. You're going to get way less for way more. And yeah, this is our new normal.
Yeah. Super nice.
There was something else I was going to tell you too, but it's gone. So.
All right. Hey, new normal. I mean, welcome to the 70s, everyone. It really isn't that fun.
Dude, I just can't even. I don't know what people are thinking, but oh well.
No, it sucks. And yeah, and with the different job crises, you have everyone who is now being fired because they won't go along with vaccine mandates.
That's the other thing, Mo. That's what I wanted to say when we were talking about the other thing. There's all the all the heroes that worked through the pandemic and this and that. They're all the people that are getting fired now for the vaccine mandates.
Right.
I was a hero when there was no mandate, and now that there is one, and I worked through the whole crisis, but now I'm the villain.
Right. And I don't know. It's also, look, I think I've said this before, but kind of like, look, there are people out there who they're working hard, they're doing the Lord's work, everything else. But it's like, being a teacher doesn't make you a hero. I'm just gonna straight up say it. And it's kind of obnoxious, frankly. And
Dude, I am a hero.
Whoa, you are a hero. Just it really frustrates. I'm sorry that it's not as if, no, I know, because it's not as if, there are nurses out there and they're doing good work and they're saving lives and they're helping people. And, when you're sick in a hospital, you definitely know the quality of a good nurse. But let's straight up honest, there's a lot of crap nurses out there too. And it's the crap ones who are taking all the accolades. Like, they're so happy. And you can't question me because I'm a nurse and I'm a hero. And it's like, just shut your mouth.
The pandemic certainly made a lot of people think that they're way better than they are. And I think the whole teacher thing, I think teachers are great. I teach my 2 kids. I think that anybody who can handle a classroom of children is good. Like, they make me insane, and they're just 2 of them.
Right.
Then again, they are my kids, so it does change the dynamic some, but you know what I mean?
Right.
But this whole, we're so glorious and wonderful. Dude, we're at the point now where if you can, take your kids out of the public schools. Start telling people what you really think. They've gotten too big for their britches.
Yeah. And again, it's this sort of puffed up, like, well, I'm special because I'm a teacher. And I'm just like, honey, we all work jobs. Okay. And they all have their ups and downs.
Yeah. And you know what? Some of them aren't glamorous, but they're still needed. Mm-hmm. I mean, I scrub other people's toilets.
Right. No one's doing #hero on that, but let me tell you, a clean toilet is important.
Hey, it makes me
You
money.
are helping the health crisis,
I am.
as in helping to defeat it. You know, you're in a sanitary division. Anyways, no matter.
You've got a couple more minutes. So what else do we need?
Sorry. Oh, I forget. No, and you know, speaking of health crisis, that Rachel Levin, the health undersecretary, is now the female 4-star general. Coincidentally, the first female 4-star general who has fathered 3 children and played football with General Milley. But creepier than that is that you have your first 4-star admiral, that the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps, and there's a 4-star admiral in charge of that. And I'm wondering why the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps has a Navy and that is in charge of 2,000 people. That seems kind of bizarre and creepy. And like when they talk about it and all of the fluff surrounding it, it kind of reminds me of Harry Potter, you know, when you open the Daily Prophet and the Daily Prophet says that, you know, all the good guys are crap and all the good guys and all the bad guys just want to help you. And you're like, oh, look at all this fluff. Oh, look, there's 3 sentences and they've said absolutely nothing. You know that this is some super garbage. Like, and this is for the health and safety of everybody. Health and safety, health and safety. I'm like, ooh, this is going to hurt.
They've got those fancy buzzwords. Now, I didn't realize, I saw the picture going around of the first female 4-star admiral. I didn't realize it was the same person. So I just kept looking at the picture going, do all older trans men look the same? Because I was thinking that that person also looked like Rachel.
No, it is the same person.
Okay. I missed that memo. I didn't realize it was the same person. But that's what my brain kept thinking. Like, is it like once you hit a certain age, you all just look similar? Like, what happened?
It's kind of like the old joke with the thing with men when they get older is that they all start to look like Sean Connery. The problem with women when they get older is they all start to look like Sean Connery. So
it's a bad joke, but I like it.
You gotta keep those ones fresh. But yeah, and I don't know, it's like Norse mythology now, where it's like, and this is Loki, mother of a horse. Don't question it. Moving on.
Okay.
And you're like,
not that, but
the lady from ESPN, Allison Williams, there's the Southwest protest still going on. In-N-Out Burger says that it won't segregate anyone, so that's pretty cool.
Cool. Yep, and Southwest said that I think enough people were filing exemptions that they were going to put them on unpaid leave, but now they have said that they will allow them to continue working while they're being processed, which is cool because it's not your employee's fault that you don't have the manpower to process their requests. You know, it's why should they be punished for that?
Right.
I didn't hear about In-N-Out Burger. So they had their or at least one of their locations shut down in San Francisco because the local regulations is that you needed basically a vaccine passport to enter the business, and In-N-Out said, yeah, we're not enforcing this. It's none of our business. We're not going to ask all of our patrons if they've been vaccinated or not. We don't do that. And they were shut down, which has caused a lot of people to go to In-N-Out recently. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I've never been to one. There's none near here. Are there any in South Dakota? Is that just mostly like a West Coast kind of thing?
I think it is. I think there are some in Texas. I don't know exactly how far their reach is, but yeah, we don't have In-N-Out out here. So woohoo for them.
Good for you all. If you live near one, go support them.
Right.
We like. I think that's a good reminder though, is that when these businesses make the stand, do what you can. You might not be able to, Anna and I cannot go to In-N-Out Burger. I don't know anybody who lives near one, so it's not like I can be like, hey, here's a gift card, or but if it's happening near you, try to participate if it's feasible, because that's how people are going to know that you support them. So,
and I saw this week Ari Hassanj, I believe his name is. I may have pronounced his last name incorrectly, but he is the guy who is out there with Project Stands Together. So he's putting the posters up with the, we do not discriminate, age, race, gender, sexuality, vaccinated or unvaccinated status. And he puts these posters out, and people are printing them out and posting them in businesses just across the country. And he's getting billboards done. What's the guy's name? The one fitness guy in North Carolina. Ian, yep. In
New Jersey, Attila's Gym.
New Jersey, yes. I'm sorry. But he is the first location that he keeps a stack of those signs in his gym. So if you have a business, then you can just come in and grab one. And they're like nice silky printed up signs too. And again, other people print them out. They're trying to get volunteers for people to print them out and to pass them out. But I saw that Chick-fil-A did a sign very similar to his in their own font, and they're putting them up in their windows.
Nice.
Yeah. So they're not saying, straight up saying Project Stands Together, but still it's that they want to make a statement in that way.
I have a Chick-fil-A nearby, so I might have to run over there the next time I'm in the town and see if they've got one. And if they do, I guess I'll go buy a burger, right? A chicken sandwich, not a burger.
That's right. The Lord's chicken.
But yeah, I think that it's important. It's easy to say you support something or whatever, but you've got to kind of back it up. I mean, maybe you can print signs for businesses nearby and ask them if they want to have them, or maybe, because the more that people get behind these things, the better it's going to be for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, there is nothing like trying for getting something done. I know Elizabeth Zimmerman knit on with confidence through all life's trials and tribulations. That may not be how she ended it. I don't know.
While you're knitting on, don't forget to check out chickenladyfiberarts.com for her yarn selections, and use the code PIK Deplorables20 to get 20% off of your order. And you can order from her like every week and use that code. She doesn't care. So have at it, have fun, get some fabulous fiber.
Yeah, I think last I heard, she still has one of her clue themed advent calendars available. And she has all sorts of new fall themed yarn and mohair and all sorts of, I think she has one in the color she's called pumpkin pie, just beautiful and orangey, and it made me happy. So go and check her stuff out. Yep. She has sock sets, and again, lots of different weights from bulky to fingering, and different fiber contents, and some made in the USA yarn within 20 miles of her. Is that Grand River Fibers? I believe so. Anyways, lots of beautiful natural colors that is processed right near her. So yeah, go ahead and check her out.
All right, guys, and thanks for joining us. If you missed our lives from the last 2 weeks, I will be reposting them to YouTube and to Rumble. So I'll include a link to that in my email if you guys get it, and they'll be available. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, Instagram, Facebook, Parler, MeWe, Vero, Gab. And I heard that the president started a new social media channel today called Truth Social. So I haven't even looked at that yet, but I assume if it's what I think it's going to be, you'll also be able to find us there. So
that's right. It'll be a party.
But thanks for joining us this week, and we will see you all again next week.
All right. See you then, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.